It was a Saturday afternoon in August, the kind of humid day when the air feels thick enough to hold in your hand. The thermometer outside the grocery store read 94 degrees, and the parking lot shimmered under the sun. The night before, your calf had tightened so sharply that it pulled you out of sleep. That morning, after 20 minutes in the garden, your legs felt heavy, and your hands seemed weaker than usual. You told yourself it was probably age, heat, or not drinking enough water. But by noon, you were standing in the supplement aisle looking for something that promised a faster answer. The shelves were crowded with orange potassium tablets, banana-flavored gummies, berry electrolyte powders, and fluorescent sports drinks, with pictures of flexed muscles and mountain peaks. One bottle said maximum strength. Another showed a lightning bolt. You bought a bottle of tablets, 2 sports drinks, 1 tub of electrolyte powder, and a pouch of gummies. The total at the register was $34.68. At home, you swallowed the tablets with a sweet tropical drink. The flavor was artificial and heavy. The powder left a gritty layer at the bottom of the glass, and the gummies stuck to your teeth. You waited for something to change. Nothing did. Your stomach felt full, your mouth still felt dry, and the tightness in your calf remained. That evening, your grandchildren came into the kitchen while you were cutting a cantaloupe for Saturday supper. The knife had barely reached the center when your calf seized again. You put the knife down and gripped the counter until the muscle released. One of the children asked if you were all right. You smiled and said your leg had only fallen asleep, but the orange supplement bottle, the open powder tub, and the half-finished sports drinks were lined up behind you like evidence. The children carried the fruit to the table while you sat down. The receipt remained beside the sink. You had spent $34.68 trying to buy potassium as a product, but you still did not understand potassium as a pattern of eating. Now I want you to sit with this. Potassium is not rare. What is rare is a modern meal that still contains the foods carrying it. Your body does not recognize a yellow label, a muscle graphic, or the word maximum printed across a bottle. It recognizes minerals arriving with food, water, carbohydrate, protein, and time. Bananas are useful, but they are not the only place potassium lives. Beans, lentils, yogurt, milk, dried fruit, fish, leafy greens, and melons all belong in the conversation. There is no luck in building a mineral-rich diet. There is only what returns to the table every week. The supplement bottle looks concentrated. The old kitchen was consistent. Every farmer's wife once knew that strength did not come from one special food. It came from repetition. A pot of lentils on Monday, beans soaked overnight for Tuesday, cold milk after fieldwork, melon in summer, dried fruit in winter, greens when the garden was generous. No one counted milligrams at the table, but the meals kept returning. Esther's mother kept a lentil pot on low heat during haymaking season. She set cold milk, sliced melon, and a jar of soaked raisins beside the stove so anyone coming in from the field could take a small portion before supper. Esther's grandmother stored dates and figs in the pantry, but she never handed them out by the fistful. She counted them, chopped them into porridge, or served them beside yogurt and bread. I can still picture the roadside farm stands here in Lancaster County. Baskets of melons, dark green leaves, jars of dried fruit, milk bottles, and sacks of beans. The grandmother recognized the ingredient. The mother understood the portion. Esther repeated the combination. Then the supermarket divided those same foods into separate claims: powders, gummies, and promises. When I say biblical foods, I am not claiming that the Bible contains medical potassium prescriptions. These are foods connected to biblical lands, biblical-era agriculture, traditional Mediterranean eating, and practical modern equivalents. They include lentils, beans, chickpeas, dates, figs, grapes, pomegranates, milk, yogurt, fish, greens, barley, and melons. They are foods, not miracles. I am Elias Yoder. I am Amish, and I farm in Lancaster County. I am going to show you 15 potassium-rich foods and combinations, along with simple ways to inspect, portion, and use them. In about 60 to 90 seconds, you can usually tell whether each one belongs in your basket. I cannot promise that one meal will remove cramps, weakness, or fatigue. Those symptoms can have many causes. But I can promise that you will stop treating potassium as one banana, one pill, or one expensive bottle. If you have kidney disease, heart failure, diabetes, or a prescribed potassium restriction, or if you take medicine that affects potassium, speak with your clinician before increasing high-potassium foods. Severe weakness, fainting, chest pain, or an irregular heartbeat should not be self-treated with food or supplements. The first food is lentils. A practical serving is about 1 cup cooked, used in soup, stew, or a warm bowl with vegetables. Good lentils are tender but not dissolved into paste. The broth should smell earthy and clean, not sour, and the surface should not be covered with oil. Lentils bring potassium together with fiber, carbohydrate, and plant protein. That combination matters because the mineral arrives inside a real meal rather than by itself. The good version is home-cooked lentils with vegetables, herbs, and measured salt. The bad version is a canned soup with a thin scattering of lentils and a broth so salty that it leaves you thirstier. Esther kept lentils simmering during harvest because a small warm bowl was easier for tired workers than a heavy plate. At the store, choose dry lentils that smell clean and show no moisture inside the bag. If you use canned soup, compare sodium and look at how many lentils are actually present. The second food is white beans. Half a cup to 1 cup cooked can add substance to soup, salad, or a simple plate. Good beans are creamy white, tender, and mostly intact. A few split skins are normal. Sour smell, slimy liquid, swollen cans, or leaking seals are not. White beans offer potassium, fiber, and protein in a form that can appear every week without feeling repetitive. The good version is home-cooked beans or low-sodium canned beans rinsed under water. The bad version is a bowl drowned in thick, sugary sauce. Esther soaked beans overnight and cooked them slowly with herbs the next day. If you are not used to beans, begin with a smaller portion, because suddenly eating a large bowl may cause discomfort. And if a can is deeply dented, swollen, or leaking, walk away. I have more of Esther's seasonal kitchen notes and our Amish home-saving methods collected at eliasyoder.com because there is too much to fit into one video. I will not mention it again today, but it is there for anyone who wants the complete collection. The third food is chickpeas. A half cup to 1 cup serving works in salads, soups, or spreads. Good chickpeas are round, pale gold, and firm enough to hold their shape while still being easy to chew. Chalky centers mean they need more cooking. Chickpeas bring potassium, fiber, and protein together. The good version is plain chickpeas with lemon, cucumber, herbs, and measured salt. The bad version is a heavily salted deep-fried snack that uses the healthy reputation of chickpeas to disguise a processed coating. Esther mixed chickpeas with cucumber and herbs for a cold summer bowl. At the grocery store, compare canned versions for sodium and rinse them well. If you are under a potassium restriction, even a healthy bowl may be too much, so follow the plan given to you. The fourth food is dried apricots. This is where portion becomes more important than enthusiasm. A small serving may be 4 to 6 pieces, depending on size. Good dried apricots are flexible, pleasantly tart, and free from sticky syrup. Their color may range from orange to brown. Bright orange often means sulfur was used to preserve color. That is not automatically dangerous, but you should know what you are buying. Drying removes water and concentrates both fruit sugar and minerals. That is why dried apricots can be useful and easy to overeat at the same time. The good version has no added sugar. The bad version is candy-coated fruit or apricot pieces soaked in syrup. Esther counted dried fruit before serving it. She chopped a few pieces into porridge rather than placing a full bag on the table. At the store, check for added sugar, oil, moisture, and damaged packaging. If you manage blood sugar or potassium, the portion matters as much as the ingredient. The fifth food is dates. 2 medium dates beside yogurt, milk, or a meal can add potassium and carbohydrate without turning the snack into dessert. Good dates are soft, flexible, and caramel brown. Sour odor, wet fermentation, or fuzzy growth are reasons to discard them. What casual shoppers miss is how quickly a healthy date snack becomes a confection. 8 dates, nut butter, chocolate, coconut, and syrup may still be marketed as natural, but the body still receives a large concentrated load. The good version is 2 dates eaten slowly. The bad version is a giant energy ball, eaten as though the word natural erased the portion. Esther wrapped 2 dates for each worker before a long day in the field. She did not put the entire bag in the wagon. Before I go on, take a moment and look at how ordinary these foods are. We have built a small community around practical Amish household systems, seasonal food storage, careful shopping, and kitchen habits families can repeat. The link is in the description. Now let us continue, because the next foods are where casual shoppers often confuse concentration with quality. The sixth food is raisins. 2 tablespoons to a small quarter cup is enough for oatmeal, yogurt, or a grain bowl. Good raisins are wrinkled, dry but flexible, and mildly fruity. Condensation inside the package, sour odor, or sticky wet clumps are warnings. Raisins provide potassium and carbohydrate in concentrated form. What casual shoppers miss is that several small boxes can disappear quickly because the portion looks harmless. The good version is a measured spoonful added to breakfast. The bad version is chocolate-coated raisins eaten from a large bag. Esther soaked raisins overnight, used the water for mild flavor, and folded the softened fruit into breakfast. Nothing was wasted. At the store, walk away from damaged packages or fruit with an unpleasant fermented smell. The seventh food is dried figs. 1 or 2 figs can be chopped into oats, yogurt, or bread. Good figs are soft, flattened, and gently sweet-smelling. A light powdery sugar bloom can be normal. Fuzzy mold is not. Figs bring potassium, carbohydrate, and fiber, but natural does not mean unlimited. Drying removes water, not calories. The good version is 1 chopped fig in a bowl of food. The bad version is a large handful covered with honey. Esther folded soaked fig into oatmeal the next morning. At the store, inspect for wet packaging, insects, sour smell, or visible mold. If any of those appear, walk away. The 8th food is plain yogurt. 1 cup of plain unsweetened yogurt can add potassium, protein, calcium, and fluid to a meal. Good yogurt should be smooth, white, cold, and pleasantly tangy. Strange colors, swelling containers, or a sharp spoiled odor are reasons to discard it. The good version is plain yogurt with fresh fruit or a measured amount of dried fruit. The bad version is dessert yogurt layered with syrup, candy pieces, and added sugar. After garden work, Esther served plain yogurt with melon. At the store, turn the container around and read the added sugar line. The front may show fruit and fields, while the back tells the real story. Anyone with dairy allergy should avoid it, and lactose tolerance varies from person to person. The 9th food is milk or a plain cultured milk drink. 1 cup provides fluid, carbohydrate, protein, calcium, and potassium in 1 simple serving. Good milk smells fresh, pours evenly, and has been kept cold. The good version is plain milk or an unsweetened cultured drink. The bad version is an oversized flavored milk with syrup and dessert-level sugar. Esther served small cold glasses after fieldwork, not giant bottles. At the store, compare flavored and plain versions. If milk does not suit you, choose an alternative based on your needs rather than assuming every substitute contains the same potassium or protein. The 10th food is fish, served with lentils or greens. A moderate portion of fish adds protein and can contribute potassium, while the lentils or greens make the meal more complete. Fresh fish should smell mild, not aggressively fishy. The flesh should be moist and firm, not slimy. The good version is baked, grilled, or gently cooked fish beside lentils or greens. The bad version is fish buried under a heavily salted fried coating. Esther served fish with barley or lentils at Friday supper. At the store, cold temperature and clean smell matter more than a decorative display. Keep fish refrigerated and cook it safely. The 11th food is cooked leafy greens such as chard, beet greens, or similar dark leaves. Cooking shrinks them, allowing a moderate bowl to hold more leaves than a raw plate. Good cooked greens are dark, tender, and still recognizable. Gray mush swimming in processed sauce is another thing entirely. Greens bring potassium with fiber and other nutrients. The good version is lightly cooked with garlic, herbs, or a little oil. The bad version is a small amount of greens hidden under a salty packaged sauce. Esther used older but still sound outer leaves in soup instead of throwing them away. At the store, avoid slimy leaves, wet decay, and strong rotten odor. People on potassium restrictions may need to be especially careful with cooked greens because the leaves become concentrated into a smaller volume. The 12th food is melon. 1 to 2 cups can provide fluid, carbohydrate, and potassium in a refreshing form. Good melon is dense, juicy, fragrant, and heavy for its size. A mild sweet smell is welcome. Fermented odor, leaking cracks, or collapsed wet flesh are not. The good version is fresh chilled melon. The bad version is fruit canned in heavy syrup. Esther cut melon on the porch while the children separated seeds and carried slices to the table. At the farm stand, compare 2 melons in your hands. Smell the blossom end. Once the melon is cut, refrigerate it promptly. The 13th combination is pomegranate and yogurt. Spoon fresh pomegranate seeds over plain yogurt. The bowl should be white and ruby red. with no syrup pooling at the bottom. The yogurt provides the stronger potassium and protein base, while the pomegranate adds texture, carbohydrate, and brightness. The good version is fresh seeds over plain yogurt. The bad version is pomegranate-flavored syrup over sweetened yogurt. Esther used a small amount of special fruit to improve an ordinary food. At the store, choose a pomegranate that feels heavy and has no badly split or leaking skin. The 14th combination is barley, beans, and herbs. Barley itself is not the strongest potassium source in this list, but it gives beans a practical home and makes the meal filling and repeatable. The bowl should show separate grains, tender beans, and fresh green herbs. The good version is home-cooked with measured salt and vegetables. The bad version is a packaged grain bowl whose sauce carries most of the sodium and sugar. Esther mixed leftover barley and beans for the next day's lunch. At the store, inspect the sodium and serving size on prepared bowls. Remember that barley contains gluten. The 15th combination is the Lancaster potassium plate. Place lentils or beans on one side, cooked greens on another, fresh melon beside them, a spoonful of plain yogurt, and one small serving of dried fruit. The colors should tell you what is there: earthy brown lentils, dark green leaves, pale yogurt, bright melon, and 2 small pieces of dried fruit. The point is not to load the plate with as much potassium as possible. The point is to combine several useful foods with fluid, fiber, protein, and carbohydrate. The good version uses balanced portions, measured salt, and no syrup. The bad version piles on dried fruit, sweetened yogurt, and heavily salted canned food, while calling the plate healthy. If you have a medical potassium restriction, this plate may not be appropriate at all. Healthy-looking food can still be wrong for a particular body. Now I want to take a moment because this is where it all comes together. Lentils bring potassium with fiber. White beans bring minerals with substance. Chickpeas turn salad into a meal. Apricots concentrate the fruit, so the portion must shrink. Dates are useful when 2 remain 2. Raisins belong in a spoon, not an endless handful. Figs bring sweetness and fiber. Yogurt and milk bring potassium with protein. Fish strengthens the meal. Greens carry minerals from the soil. Melon brings fluid from the summer field. Pomegranate adds brightness without syrup. Barley gives beans a practical home. The final plate proves that variety is stronger than one miracle food. The vine stores the sun. The bean stores the soil. The melon carries the rain. The cow turns grass into nourishment. And the old kitchen brings each one to the same table. You no longer have to see the banana display or the supplement aisle as the only answer. You can look at portion, food form, added sugar, sodium, freshness, and the rest of the meal. You can walk past neon gummies and oversized powders and choose beans, lentils, yogurt, greens, and melon instead. There is very little money in teaching a family to cook lentils, measure dried fruit, and serve plain yogurt beside a melon. Supplements and packaged snacks sell speed, certainty, and the idea that every problem has one product. Traditional food asks for repetition, soaking, cooking, refrigeration, and a little planning. A grandmother knew how to soak beans. Her daughter knew how to cook them. The next generation bought prepared meals. The grandchild learned potassium from a banana graphic and a supplement bottle. Supplements are not automatically bad. A clinician may recommend one for a specific medical reason. But potassium supplements should not be casual self-treatment, because too much potassium can also be dangerous. You do not have to guess, and you do not have to turn every nutrient into a product. So here is what I want you to do this week. First, visit a farm stand if one is available, and inspect melon, leafy greens, and seasonal produce. Pick up 2 melons, compare their weight, smell them. Look for fresh leaves rather than the brightest display. Second, visit the grocery store for dry lentils, low-sodium beans, plain yogurt, milk, chickpeas, and a small package of dried fruit. Read the labels. Compare plain yogurt with sweetened yogurt. Compare beans in water with beans in sugary sauce. Third, buy a banana if you enjoy bananas, but do not treat it as king or enemy. Variety is the goal. Fourth, cook 1 pot of lentils or beans. Use part for dinner and part for the next day's lunch. Add greens or herbs rather than hiding everything under sauce. Fifth, on Saturday, prepare the Lancaster plate with your family. Let the children rinse lentils, inspect the melon, separate pomegranate seeds, and count the dried fruit. Let them hear the melon crack under the knife, smell the earthy steam rising from the lentils, watch the greens soften in the pan, and see the pomegranate seeds catch the light beside cold white yogurt. That is how knowledge comes back, not through a bottle, but through a child counting 2 dates while someone older explains why 8 are not automatically better. Tell me in the comments which one surprised you most: lentils, white beans, yogurt, dried figs, or cooked greens. Did your mother or grandmother make a bean, lentil, or dried fruit dish that never had a written recipe? Share the ingredients, approximate amounts, the season when it was served, and how it was stored. I read every single one. These small family methods are pieces of heirloom knowledge, and once they disappear, no company can manufacture the memory that went with them. Next time, since we have been speaking of potassium, we need to talk about the habits that quietly disturb the mineral balance of an otherwise good diet. We will look at excess sodium, highly processed meals, poor fluid intake, extreme dieting, unnecessary supplements, and meals that keep pushing vegetables and legumes off the plate. It is the natural next step after today, because learning where potassium comes from matters only when you also recognize the habits that keep real food away from the table. Until then, remember that the soil does not place its strength inside one perfect food. It divides it among the bean, the leaf, the vine, the milk, and the summer melon. The old table understood what the modern label often forgets. Nourishment becomes dependable when it returns with every season. Choose carefully, measure wisely, and pass the knowledge to the youngest hands beside you. A strong table is not built in one meal. It is built by what the family remembers to serve again.